In this video, we will be covering tree pruning techniques and safety. This video will be the first step in your training process by familiarizing you with tree pruning. Pruning every several years can be beneficial to a tree if performed properly. When pruning a tree, please keep in mind the customer's goals and the tree's needs, which include maintaining health, reducing risk of failure or breakage, increasing clearance and visibility, improving flower or fruit growth, and/or improving appearance and aesthetics. There is no right amount of branches to prune, as it will vary from tree to tree and from customer to customer. However, a good guideline is to not remove more than 25% of the canopy. Remove the fewest number of live branches as possible to reach the desired goal. Over-pruning can lead to the growth of water sprouts in an attempt to replace the stored energy lost from removing the live branches. Let's identify problems that may develop on a tree that you may encounter. First and most easy to identify are broken and dead branches. Crossing limbs are two or more limbs that are rubbing against each other, potentially exposing a wound and promoting decay. Codominant stems are two stems that grow together at similar rates and similar diameters. If possible, one of the two stems should be removed, especially at a younger age, as the two stems may tear at the union, the point where the two stems meet, causing structural problems or the need for removal. Suckers are sprouts growing from the lower trunk or roots. Water sprouts are similar sprouts growing upright from the interior branches. This vigorous sprouting can be a sign of stress. Included bark is bark pinched between two stems or meeting points. This is a sign of a weak union and may prevent the forming of a typical branch bark ridge. Large and low limbs have the risk of overextending and breaking off, leaving a large pruning wound. Be cautious of removing such limbs, as it may increase the rate of decay and promote rotting. There are many reasons to prune, such as for structural pruning, crown clearing, crown raising, and crown reduction. Pruning for structure is the removal of stems and branches to influence the growth rate, orientation, attachment strength, and size of a stem or branch of a tree. Pruning to clean is the removal of branches that are dead, dying, broken, or detached. Pruning to raise is the removal of branches below a given height to provide clearance for items such as vehicles, pedestrians, signs, and more. Pruning to reduce is the removal of stems and branches to decrease the spread or height of a tree shrub, such as for utility lines or homes. Pruning to restore is the removal of branches, stubs, and sprouts that have been improperly pruned or damaged. Pruning to thin is not a recommended practice, as branches may be unnecessarily removed, potentially causing stress or damage to a tree. As a result of proper tree pruning using the methods discussed earlier, a tree canopy will be naturally thinner. Two improper ways of tree pruning that are not recommended are tree topping and lines tailing. Tree topping is pruning to create a rounded canopy that often requires cutting through a stem to an improper location. Lines tailing is the removal of many, if not all, secondary or tertiary branches from the interior of the crown, leaving most of the foliage at the edge or top of a canopy. To reiterate, these are not recommended tree pruning practices, as it can shorten the lifespan of a tree and promote decay. Let's talk about pruning cuts. In general, there are two types of pruning cuts: reduction cuts and heading cuts. A reduction cut shortens a branch or limb back to a lateral branch that is smaller or similar in size. This is commonly used in structural pruning and crown reduction. When making a reduction cut, cut the stem back to a lateral branch, ideally of the same diameter or at least 1/3 of the diameter of the parent stem. This branch should be able to sustain the limb. If possible, avoid reduction cuts on larger, permanent scaffold limbs. A heading cut is a cut made between branches that will leave a stub. This cut may be useful to reduce a current season's growth of undesirable growing flowers or fruit, to reduce the length of a branch, or to improve aesthetic appearance. Heading cuts are not recommended to shorten a tree's height. For larger or heavier branches, 3 cuts should be made for a more safe and effective removal. The first cut is an undercut, approximately 1 to 2 feet away from the parent trunk or branch. The second cut is a top cut, slightly further out on the limb above the undercut. The third and final cut is a cut close to the collar, branch bark ridge, or union while not cutting into any of them. The branch bark collar has live tissue and should not be pruned or damaged. This video is just a brief introduction to tree pruning. If there are any questions, please reach out to your crew leader or production manager.